Hey everyone, Ariel Adams here with the aBlogtoWatch Superlative podcast. My guest today is Karar Amer. He is the founder of I Love Watches, aka AFL, which is how we will refer to it from here on out because of the podcast censors. Karar, how are you?
I'm doing great, my friend. How are you?
I'm good. You reminded me that we had met before, and I had a sense that we had, but I hadn't really remembered because obviously we were at a business meeting where the conversation wasn't really between you and us. But yes. I think what's interesting to say is you are now a pretty popular social media personality and entrepreneur, but you sort of began in the industry and then you decided, I want to work still adjacent to the industry, but not really for a brand. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, when I started this, like almost a decade ago, when I started blogging about watches under the banner that you mentioned, we'll call it IFL watches now. I just, like I was a kid, I just loved watches, and that's how things got started for me. I used to follow you back then. Obviously, aBlogtoWatch, Houdinki, etc. was the big boys when I started out. And so I used to see a lot of what you guys did. I was very fascinated by the fact that you guys got access to all these watches that were just new. And so the hobby really grew on me, and I started studying it. And for the longest time ever, I was just blogging alongside my day-to-day job. So I did that for almost 5-6 years. And then it came to a point where Instagram marketing, Instagram blogging, and obviously the page blew off and became fairly big. A lot of brands reached out and wanted to start collaborating, started to understand how they could do better on social media, how they could reach people in a cost-effective way. And that was kind of my expertise because I understood the organic aspect of Instagram. One thing led to the other, and one of my then clients was Jacob & Co. We still work together, and I was contacted by Benjamin back then and wanted me to come on board and work for them as head of social and lead their social efforts on Instagram. So I did that for a while. So I did work for a brand, and that's actually when we met, when we were in Geneva. For that dinner. And after that, when I saw, when you get to see all of that for the first time up close, when you get to see all these $1 million watches, and you get to see the jewelry, and you get to see all the brands exhibiting and all the new stuff, you're just mesmerized. It's like magic. And you want to dive deeper. You want to understand how to be part of the industry, how to offer something unique to the industry, and come in with a new swing, basically, and not just do rehashed things, etc. Go in with a little bit of creativity and a little bit of flair.
I think it's so clear that you have sort of this infectious level of passion that we all do sort of in our own way, right? Like if we're in the sort of media side of things, you not only have to have this deep passion for watches, but you want to share it with others. And we each sort of find our own way of doing that, sort of like a weird compulsion. We could be sharing worse facts with the world, right? I guess watch information is pretty innocent in the scheme of things. But we're sort of these very interesting, zealous advocates of the hobby, and we help create other hobbyists. Would you agree?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And other hobbyists and other people that are also looking to get into the industry as well. I get a lot of messages from young entrepreneurs interested in doing this, that, and third. I try to give advice where I can and help people where I can as well. And it's really cool to see how the industry have been shaped by social media, the effect of social media. I love social media. I think it's the coolest thing ever. And without that, I'm very sure I wouldn't be in the industry. So So yeah, it's very cool to see all the new creators popping up, the new styles people create content nowadays versus how we used to do it back in the days, how content has evolved so much. It's very cool. I mean, you remember you used to do your wrist shots, etc. Nowadays, it's more podcasts, more live, etc.
Talk about the term blogger. That's meant a lot of different things. I called myself a blogger for a long time because I had a blog.
Yes.
It has the word blog in it.
Yes.
But that term has really changed. And you know what, Karar? I'm not sure I even know what blog means anymore. Would you tell me what a blog and a blogger is these days?
Yeah, so I think somebody that invests their time into understanding a matter in a deeper level and wanting to share it with the general public through any social platform they wish to be.
So like a topical expert.
Yeah, like you see these new generation content creators where they talk about micro brands, etc. Those weren't really that popular back in the days. Nowadays, it's more popular to for collectors to start looking into more other type of watch brands, just not just your ordinary watch brand, so to say. So yeah, I would say like anybody that shares their knowledge online and does it in a way and in an effective level where they have an audience that is interested in listening to what they're saying, so to say. I'd say that's an effective blogger.
That's as good a definition as any. I mean, I think it goes to show that it's a very broad concept now that involves a host of different types of behaviors. It's interesting that for you, being an advocate of a hobby or an area or knowing about something is a key part of it. Maybe that wasn't originally part of blogging. It was more the action of writing. Some people think that to blog, you have to write. Some people think you just have to track what you're doing. The term blog is just a combination of web and log. It's just a shortening of weblog, right? So you're logging something on the internet. Yeah. It's pretty general.
Keeping track of it.
I think what you and I will agree with is that when you are a blogger, you leave some record of your journey.
Yes.
Right? You are pursuing an interest and you are recording at least part of it for a general audience. And what the internet era has shown is that action is popular. And you can do it on different platforms, right? Like Instagram, YouTube, your own website, all the other different type of things. Yeah. It's all the same thing. It's giving the audience an opportunity to follow someone on their journey. And the funny thing is there really isn't school for this, right? This is still so new that the only way to learn is to accidentally follow into it while watching other people do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just like you're saying, there's absolutely no school for it. Like you need to have the passion for it. I think what I can speak from my own point of view, what made the page successful was that my passion wasn't just for watches. My passion was also for social media. I really liked studying social media. I mean, the amount of times I've been on your account back in the days and the amount of times I've been on, all accounts, just understanding, seeing data, trying to understand, okay, why does this wrist shot perform better than this wrist shot? Why does this wrist roll perform better than this wrist roll? What is different with this post? Why does this get 15,000 likes and why does this get 1,500 likes from the same account? So I try to, invest a lot into understanding the algorithm and understanding everything. And by the end of the day, it all comes down to you need to put yourself in their shoes, Instagram, Facebook, or whoever they are. They want retention. They want people to stay on the platform. So the more interesting stuff you do, the more interested the algorithm is going to be about your content. They're going to push your content and get you out there, so to say. So,
It's a strange thing that as a content creator on social media, you have sort of two jobs at the very least. One job is to make an audience happy, and the other job is to make an algorithm happy. And these are two very different entities with very different interests and needs. How challenging is it to make both of these entities fully satisfied at the same time?
It's very hard. It's very hard. I mean, specifically for brands that doesn't really have clear USPs, I've had a lot of companies reach out to me, hey, we need help with our social, this and that. And then you take a closer look at their offering, so to say, and you're like, okay, this is a very hard spin because it's very normal stuff. But it goes back to like creativity within your product. If you have a product, like let's take as an example, Jacob as a brand, as an example, or what we do at IFL, when we put out something there, it's never been seen before. Like it's something very unique in its own. You might find reference points here and there, but overall it's very unique. So then you're only tasked with just like show this in a clear manner online, make sure that the images or the videos are very clear and concise, and then that brings you like that brings you a lot of way forward in a good way, so to say.
I know all the people that do the type of work you do almost religiously look at the data. You look at engagement, you try to see what other people are doing. You're looking for clues on what to do right, what you did that was right, to try to replicate it again. And I've wondered, and I'd like your opinion on this. At the end of the day, after you look at all the data and you feel like you have an intuitive understanding of what it all means, is randomness and luck and some other sort of unpredictable element still the major force in success?
There is a randomness and luck involved in it because there are tiers of virals. Like if an account generally gets, let's say, on average 1,000 likes, then it can sometimes hit 10,000 likes. That's a viral. But then nowadays, what you see is sometimes it can hit 500,000 likes, where it just doesn't make sense. It's like big celebrity numbers. I've had that happen to my accounts a couple of times, where we have certain videos that could be a Casio that has like almost 1 million likes and 25 million views and crazy numbers like that. But that comes back to the retention aspect of how well does this content, how well is the retention of this content. And when Instagram sees that's a very high level, then that's going to be on everybody's For You page, basically.
Would you like to hear my opinion on this? It's just one person's opinion.
Absolutely. Tell me.
So this sort of, the larger topic we're talking about is gaming the system. And I don't mean that in a negative way or sort of an unethical way, but to do well on social media, you need to know what these platforms want. And these platforms don't give you instructions or guides. All you have is the tools that you see and what other people do and perceptions of success. And so if you want to do well on these platforms, it's like saying go into the wilderness and build your own house and survive. And if you're still here in 5 years, let's talk, right? Like there isn't much more to it than like you just got to use your imagination. Now, the problem is I don't think there's a very clear relationship with the social media companies. And I'll tell you what I think they're doing. See, people have the belief that if you figure out how to do well, you'll stay doing well, and then all your content will do well. But my position is that's actually impossible. It's actually built into the system that's impossible. What I think they want you to do is keep trying to up the ante a bit, because obviously the better the content on their platform, the better it is for them. And once in a while, reward you. They can't make all of your content like, winning the lottery. But once in a while, they'll throw you a bone and be like, okay, you posted a lot. You're obviously trying. We'll give it to you. And then you get so hooked on that you keep trying to get it again. You're like, oh my God, and now I want that. I got so hooked on that viral success. I got to do it again. So they're playing with the psychology of the creators, forcing you to work so hard for them by making incredibly high quality content that's unique and original and polished, and you keep publishing it all the time. And you're so desperate to get that viral sensation and performance again that you and legions of other people, I hope, across many interests and categories are all trying to play that game. That's what I think is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, you absolutely have a point there. Like throwing you a bone like that, yeah, it makes sense. It does make sense. Like for everybody that posts a lot, like you can go through a lot of these big pages and you're gonna see they all have like pinned posts where those posts have gone crazy. And you want to pin it because it's fun. It looks amazing. Like you have 500,000 likes on your page. But yeah, I agree with you that you have a point there. And also, I think like the consumer behavior on the platforms have changed throughout the years as well. What people like to consume. And if we take Instagram as an example, like. I mean, we both were on Instagram when stories were introduced and when reels were introduced and when they tried the TV stuff and they removed that, and that's also what I've learned throughout the years is whenever Instagram brings you a new type of format, make sure you master it right away because there is rewards in the beginning. There's high rewards.
Just in the beginning.
Yes. And then after a while, you get like, okay.
Well, we have the oversaturation problem. I think that's the important thing. These platforms have so much content being uploaded. There's no way they can deliver to everyone. The reason these games happen is because there's far more content than eyeballs.
Yes. Yes.
So not everyone can win all the time. And so to make things fair, it's kind of like a lottery. They want to reward high performers, but ultimately, if they can give 100 people success and there's 1,000 people who want it, what else are they going to do? It's like trying to get into Harvard.
Yeah. Yeah, it is hard. Yeah, I agree with you. It is hard. Everybody's content creator. Everybody has a phone. Everybody can put up content nowadays. And then everybody that's trying to cheat the systems. I mean, I can sometimes I see these massive like groups on Telegram and this and that, and you see, buying likes, buying comments, buying this, buying that. So everybody's trying, also cheating the system. So
you remember when buying likes was a daily thing? Maybe they got rid of that. I don't know, but that was like constant for a while. Maybe it was years ago now, but that was like a huge problem.
No, but a lot of people still do it. A lot of people still do it.
I guess.
Yes. I get that question so many times.
So sleazy.
Like, have you bought followers? I'm like, I swear to God, I've never in my life bought a single follower. Who am I trying to cheat myself?
But we know people who have.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a lot of people within our industry that
that's what I'm talking about. Yes. Look, I have been so delighted that something like Instagram has actually unfairly benefited the watch industry. Instagram has not nearly been compensated for what it's done for the watch industry. And if anything, it's because all these people use Instagram to first meet other watch lovers. It's a good way to meet other watch lovers. Why? Because you have all these people who have accounts, they're dedicated to like nothing but their watches. So Instagram has oddly empowered especially new watch enthusiasts of finding other people like them who maybe live close by to them, have similar tastes, speak same language, maybe have the same style or interest, whatever it is. It allows people to connect, eventually meet up, and then, really have a deep and fulfilling social life and friendship through this. And the funny thing is Instagram is making nearly no money off of this at all.
They're making a fair chunk. They're making a fair chunk.
How?
Huh?
How?
Well,
selling the advertising? I mean, these people, the watch brands themselves are not spending that much on Instagram. Let's be honest.
No, but there are a lot of brands that are investing in Instagram.
How? What do they do? Are they buying the promoted posts and stuff like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Paid is quite big especially like when you come to like bigger e-commerce platforms, etc. Like paying Meta.
I know general stuff. I mean, we agree that's obviously a huge way that Instagram is making money. All I'm saying is that there's been an outsized benefit for the watch industry, and there's a lot of
outsized.
and that's kind of an interesting quirk.
Yeah. No, because like watches, it's literally it's visual. You know what I mean? So as an example, we do way less Google advertisement than we do Meta advertisement because our product is visual. So you need to show the product, so to say. So that's why I think like Instagram, as an example, has been a great platform for our industry. And the funny thing is, if you look at it as well, like we both have been around for quite some time on the platform, it took the general watch industry and like the main street brands quite a while before they jumped on board.
Well, that's always the case. I mean, they're always the last adopter, but at the same time, they get excited by get-rich-quick schemes. So they spend the latest, but they sort of get excited about things before anyone else.
Yeah. And I also remember like when I tried to get into like these fairs, like Basel World and Geneva, etc. I didn't have a blog, so my blog was my Instagram. And when I tell them like I'm a blogger, I'm on Instagram, and I show them my numbers, my reach. I tell them like, okay, I'm reaching 10 million 10 million accounts in a month, and they don't understand that they have zero respect for Instagram bloggers. They didn't really think that's a thing.
It wasn't any different for me.
Really?
No, when I first went in, I was the first blogger. So the internet, what is this junk? You don't have a publication?
Oh,
Oh
really?
yeah.
Okay.
I had to wiggle my way in.
Okay.
There was no one welcoming me with open arms.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought you guys were the rock stars, the blogs.
I had to. I'm trying to think of the right words to describe it now that I'm thinking back. I had to be persistent. Somebody who interviewed me one time said I showed a lot of grit, or I had a lot of grit. Which I guess means is persistent. It keeps trying again and again and again. I had to spend several years of trying to get my way into shows, into meetings. With Basel World, you could just go, right? There was no invitation necessary. You just went to Basel World, and you'd go up to a booth and you'd say, I don't know, you'd try to get a meeting. And I guess I was okay at that. So, there was no invitation.
Buzzword, if you had the media credentials, it was much easier to apply for meetings with these different brands. So you would like to have a schedule beforehand.
There was no list. There was no, at the time, like in 2010, there was no list of brands. So you didn't know how to contact them. Even though you could go up to their booth, you didn't know who to talk. You didn't know who to ask for.
Okay.
So you were just like, I'm someone. Could you get someone that knows something? Could you bring them out here? That's what I'd have to do. And I was young. I was, I started this when I was 25, and like in totally different cultures, languages I didn't speak. I'm like, I have camera. Let me do something.
Yeah.
With SIHH, it was a very political thing. Should we allow this person in? Do we like him? What's he going to do with his career? And the fact that I was working for Luxist.com, which was an AOL-owned property eventually, which was a great publication until they decided to shut it and other blogs down. That was considered like a big publication. So I probably got in there first as a function of me working there. So I was lucky for that. But that was just a job. I was like, hey, no one's writing about watches for you. And they're like, do you want to do it? I was like, yes. I was just, like these days I have plenty of people that reach out to me all the time and want to write about watches. No one's asking for a watch writer, right? There's no demand for that anymore. There's more people that want to do it. But at the time that was a rare exotic thing.
Yes.
And they were like, oh, you'll do it for almost no money? Great. So
talking about demand, you know what there is a demand for now?
What's that?
Watch content creators. Like if you're really good with photos and videos and fast content, social media content. If you're good
meaning
at that,
if you can feed the beast. If you're excellent at making delicious food for the beast, you are in need.
Yes, exactly. That's how it works.
But that's an unsustainable thing, because what the request is like, hey, we need you to be super prolific and creative and charge almost nothing and do that essentially every single day of the year. How about it? I think a lot of people need it, but it's not a good job because it doesn't pay. Because
no, it does pay. It does pay. It pays actually really good.
There's a small number of employers, is my point. There's way more people that could do that. Where does it pay well at?
A lot of places.
Okay, I hope so.
A lot of places. Like all of the, as an example, every company that wants to succeed on social organically, if they want organic reach, like you need to have at least one or two persons employed that create content on a daily.
How many companies really care about that and are willing to hire an in-house person as opposed to some agency or,
Yes. Nowadays, it's becoming more and more.
Okay, but you admit it's new. It's new.
Yeah, absolutely. Like if you were to tell people, like I shoot watches for a living, they'd be like, okay, you're doing good. But if you're working for the right people, if you're at the right place, it's actually a very, very, and if you have a passion for it, obviously, then it's a really nice job because it pays pretty decent, pretty good. And
if you work at a brand, to be independent, to do it for multiple brands, to be freelance, that's a different story. Media.
It's more rough. Yeah.
Look, it's not that anyone's being cheap out there. It's just that the brands, for I think unfortunate reasons, would rather hire their own person than distribute funds to freelancers who probably would, on average, could do a better job. Because the thing about content is you don't want it all looking the same. And naturally, people get into sort of a cookie cutter mentality where they're just like, the same background, the same lighting, the same venue. And it just gets kind of boring. And when you have a little bit of money to this guy, she's going to get some, and you mix it up a little bit, the content, I think, benefits because it just looks more varied.
Yes. No, but we can agree that it's a new job. It's a new job if you look at the grand scheme of things. And if you're good at it, it does pay well. You need to be good at it. And now with social as well, what it also enables you to do is to actually garner your own audience and quote unquote be an influencer. And these brands will be able to pay you even more for your skills. So they're not just getting the content, but they're also reaching out to your audience that also like your other content. And you have a lot of examples today, if you look at the Instagram landscape, of smaller creators in the ballpark of between 20,000 followers up to 200,000 followers that, they're photographers, videographers, that's their passion, and they like watches, and they start off by shooting their own collection, and then they start with this brand reaches out and, hey, can you shoot our watch? And next brand reaches out and next brand reaches out, and all of a sudden they have a brand portfolio that they work with from the comfort of their home studio, get watches shipped to them, shipped back, they get to travel. It's a pretty nice gig if you get there.
If you get there. And what you're telling me is interesting, that now a lot of people want to get there. This was kind of news to me the first time I realized that being a watch blogger was something that others aspired to. I was like, wow, that's really something.
Yes.
But yeah, there are wannabe bloggers who have those cameras dangling around their neck, and little do they know that's not the right camera to take pictures of watches.
Yes. Dude, you come a long way with an iPhone, I'll tell you that much. I tell my team that, like, dude, just use your iPhone. What are you talking about? What do you need this big camera for? Use your iPhone. It's going on social.
I'll tell you what, I use my proper camera for macro photography, but I have moved to shooting people or landscapes or anything else with my phone. Yeah. The phone works better almost all the time. I don't want to have all the extra equipment. For macro photography, obviously the camera still does a better job. Much higher resolution. There's no one's arguing that. But for like everything else, I totally agree. And social media, the whole point, what I hear people talk about is that there's really no performance difference if you shoot it on professional equipment versus a phone. Instagram, YouTube really doesn't care. Obviously, it needs to be clear and not like horrible, but you don't seem to have any type of punishment for having an amateur production.
Absolutely not. Sometimes, especially back in the days, we used to say it needs to look more street. when we shoot it. Because those type of videos performed much better. When it looks a little bit sloppy, when it doesn't look like all professional and things fade in and fade out, and you just show people like through your lens, like, okay, this is how it's going to look like. This is the watch, bam, bam. And off you go, viral. You just shot it quickly on your phone, spent a minute or two editing it, and it just performs fantastically.
Let's talk about the fact that one of the downsides of algorithm chasing, I guess there's two major ones that I'm thinking about, is one, it kind of seems to promote the same watch brands or models over and over again. And two, in order to reach a wide enough audience that you like, you have to adapt your content to sort of a mainstream voice. It has to be not too sophisticated. It has to be more sort of democratic in terms of the way you speak. And talk about the challenges of sharing watch enthusiasm, even some really obscure stuff, but with the consideration that only certain brands do well, and you can't really speak too much above a fifth grade level.
Yeah, because just like you say, like it needs to be like Instagram at the end of the day, it's popcorn content. Somebody's looking at it. They're not really looking at it and this is university level skills. I want to understand the mechanics, the movements, the screws, the finishing, etc. Now, there are certain accounts that focus on that. But in general, like if you want to reach a wide audience, then you need to create, just like you said, easy wording, not to dive into technicalities. People want to see the visual. People nowadays as well want this fast editing is very popular. So you get to see a lot of things in a short period of time. And then, like the disease of showing the Rolex, Patek, and APs, that's going to be there. But those are the aspirational brands. Everybody, when they get into watches, like still, I talk to some people and they don't know what an AP is. They don't know what a Patek is. They think a Rolex is the most expensive thing. And we're in 2024 and, that's okay. Not everybody is deep down into watches like we are. So obviously like a Rolex is always going to be a Rolex on social media, wherever you go, when you post that's going to fly, so to say. But then also you have the saturation aspect. Now everybody and their mother is posting about Rolex watches. And then you get to a point where like, okay, how can you make things different? How can you show different stuff? That's when you also reach a different audience that is tired of just seeing your normal Rolex. They want to understand more about Vacheron. They want to understand more about H. Moser and BNF and, the rise of the independents. So I think those type of things just happen organically. And we started talking about following the data. You follow the data, you see that, okay, an H. Moser and C posted today versus posted 5-6 years ago. It's completely different engagement levels on a brand like that today. So, we're going in the right direction, I think.
But it's still not the best discovery engine. And I think that's what I've been arguing for a while. And I guess it's good for me because that means that, truly human curated platforms can be the discovery engine. But Instagram's a fun place, but it's by no means the only place. Meaning if you stay on Instagram, you're just really not going to learn about that many brands or watches, are you?
It depends on how deep down you dive into the rabbit hole.
Well, anyone can spelunk, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. No, and in general, no, absolutely. In general, like the Rolex pages are always going to be. I mean, if you look at the growth of these different pages, I study these pages pretty good. So I see like the growth of a Rolex page versus the growth of a general page that posts about a little bit of this and that. It's very different. Rolex pages are like, on another level when it comes to their growth when they solely focus on that.
What does that do for them? If you have a Rolex page and you get a lot of views, why is that good for Instagram? Why would they want to immediately promote that? I don't know if I quite understand that.
From Instagram's point of view or from the creator's point of view?
I guess Instagram. I mean, you're saying that You have a bunch of nice pictures of watches. Doesn't do well. You have same quality of pictures, but they're all Rolex watches. It does well. Why does that benefit Instagram to promote one versus the other?
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to user retention from Instagram's point of view. So if people are watching more Rolex content and liking it, sharing it more, then obviously Instagram is going to promote that style of content. Whereas, however popular an MBMF is today versus the years that's been past, it's nowhere close to a Rolex. A Rolex is always just a normal, boring Submariner is going to beat any cool MBMF you post on social in general, so to speak.
Challenge me here. Make me wrong. Instagram would rather share content you like that is familiar, that you already know, versus something new that might shock you, or something that might be novel, or something that you might want to know about that you didn't know about. It would rather just sort of give you comfort food.
I think it is more towards what the latter you said. It's more towards like comfort food. If you really like your Rolexes, the likelihood of you seeing something obscure like in the watch industry is very, very small, unless it literally hits a viral point of view because Instagram's algorithm, it's like circles. So if you're in this circle, you can edge this circle. So you might see a little bit of these other stuff. And so these different style of circles, so to say. And so they are typically going to show you the circle you're in. But a little bit on the outskirts, you might see content popping off on a different circle. That might be luxury boats, that might be luxury cars, that might be handbags, jewelry, etc. So they kind of know that, okay, you're in this realm, but we can a little bit show you this here, this here, this here as well. So it's a mix. It's a good mix. I think the algorithm is doing a pretty good job of sustaining people. I mean, if it didn't, then they wouldn't be where they are.
Thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting. I guess the second point I have that maybe you can challenge me on is that there are no algorithmic-based platforms based upon the needs of the algorithms that are effective discovery tools for watches. There are stuff on there to discover, but effectively speaking, only human curated places, it would seem, are good to really allow you to discover new watches and brands on any effective level. The algorithms just don't seem to be capable of doing that.
Yeah, because that's also not their job. You know, the algorithm's job isn't to let you see new watch brands. You know what I mean?
Are you sure that's not what people believe? I agree with you. That's not their job. But are you sure that isn't what a lot of people believe? I would gather to say a lot of people who go on Instagram for watches assume that Instagram is going to teach them something new.
Yeah, I mean, teach you something new. Yeah, absolutely. If you're open to scrolling around, if you're open to looking at the For You page, if you're open to dive in, and if you're open to spend some time on the platform, yeah, it will venture.
It's a lot of disclaimers.
Yeah, but you know, it will venture you into different things. It's just like YouTube. You know, you can start by looking at a video of how to fix your car seat, and then all of a sudden you're looking into rockets and worms, and you know.
Oh, so you saw the car seat video.
You know, but that's how they succeed, these platforms, how they keep people around is, you know, they do shock you at times. They do throw things at you at times and see how you react to them.
It's not that they never do. For me, what I always loved when I first started getting into watches were places where I could truly learn about a lot of models. And looking back of it, that none of them were algorithmic. They were what people chose to list on eBay. They're what people chose to put in some of those catalogs that had a bunch of different brands in it, you know, like physical print catalogs. They're the brands that chose to display at trade shows like Basel World or whatever. Like a bunch of humans had to make a bunch of choices, editorial or curation choices.
Yes.
And that was still the most effective way of me learning about interesting brands that ultimately make me more happy than the popular brands. I think the popular brands are great, you know, on a mainstream basis. But as an enthusiast, I would be really bored if all I had was mainstream brands to choose from. And I think that you'll definitely agree that after you spent several years in this, while you might still like the big name brands, man, would it suck if that's all you had to choose from?
Yeah, that would suck.
Right?
That would suck. No, but also now I think the brands themselves do a pretty good job of educating people about their product, their offering as well.
Really?
Like, you don't think so? Like, if you look at Patek's Instagram page. No, I mean, if you just look at Instagram on its own and how take Patek, how they approach Instagram. Have you seen their how they do things?
Not lately. I'm guessing it's just a bunch of pictures of their watches.
No, so they dive. What they do is they have the most interesting approach, I think, to Instagram, because what they do is they post once a month. But when they do post, I believe, anywhere between 9 and like 12 posts. So they do like these big grids.
I see.
Whereas each and every post, so every month they have a focus point. So this month they're going to be focusing on the Calatravas. Next month it's the perpetual calendars, etc. And within each post you dive in. I think they touch base on the history aspect very well. They touch base on their achievements in terms of technical achievements, etc. So I think
agree.
That type of approach.
That's a smart approach. That's a smart approach.
Very smart approach.
Yeah.
For a brand like that, that's exactly how you should do it. Rolex also towards that angle. They also talk a lot about their history, those bigger brands, obviously they have the budgets to hire the best and they understand how to approach this.
Oh yeah, Patek and Rolex are spending huge amounts of money on this.
Yes.
Huge amounts.
Yeah. So Patek's like, I can go in there. I just get inspired. Like, I just look through this and I'll be like, holy moly.
Yeah, and Patek has a
crazy.
history of sort of creating huge amounts of content. I remember I used to joke that their press releases, like the printed ones, were like 9 or 10 pages. I'm like, what are you saying in here? So they've just adapted something that they've always done to the medium. And I think that what it required, and this is what's interesting, is no random agency would come up with that approach. That would require a true synergy between someone who works outside of Patek Philippe and someone who works inside of Patek Philippe. And I'd love to hear the
100%.
story around that. But I agree with you. That's an intelligent approach for them.
Yes, 100%. Yeah, for a brand like that, that's the way to do it. I think like small, like independents as well, they're taking towards that as well. I really love what some of the more mainstream independents, so to say, are now doing on social as well. So yeah, you get a lot of inspiration looking at different brands, how they approach their things. And everybody is on their own journey in their own level. So, you can't just look at somebody like MBMF and be like, that's the way to do it. That's how everybody should do it. Everybody needs to have their plan from start and then upwards.
Social media influencers, just like musicians these days, make most of their money from merchandise, which is a very interesting area, especially where you have to be perhaps the most entrepreneurial. And you've gone somewhat deep into that rabbit hole, impressively so, producing and selling various, we'll call them art and accessories. You can discuss them, more detail. And at the end of the show, I want you to share with people the URL where they can see it. But one of the things that you do that I think are cool is you'll take certain watches and you'll just repaint the dial or paint the dial. You sound like you have someone that does that, and you cleverly use nice but inexpensive watches like your Citizens and stuff like that, which are great. And you make these really cool looking hand painted dials. Talk a little bit about the merchandise side of the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have a very good point there when you started out. So a lot of media people, you start with the media aspect and then you come to a point where media is like, okay, it's capped. Like we can't really sell more media, so to say. So I've always had a deep fascination with e-commerce, being able to have a online platform where people able to scroll your products, see different things, and order online. And that retail aspect has been something really cool to explore. And obviously watches being my passion. So for me, the dream world would be to have something within watches. And I have the reach and I have the media knowledge. I have the understanding of how to market everything. So we started that journey approximately 5 years ago. The IFL watches shop, where we started out with simple accessories in the beginning, such as watch rolls, watch stands, and watch winders, because I thought those played in really well with what I post. And also I had amassed my own personal collection of watches. So I had watches to display on them, and I used a lot of my own collection to initially just show how a watch roll can be used, etc. And then we started looking into making something that this has to do with my passion for social as well. I wanted to reverse engineer a product. I said, what would look really insane on social media, where it would really just pop off the screen and you'd be like, holy shit, what is this thing? So we did a Casio where we painted it in a galaxy effect, and we launched, I think this was back in 2020, just before Christmas. We launched 50 pieces, and I told the team, like, okay, if we sell these 50 pieces in a month, that'd be amazing. 50 watches in a month. And they sold out in less than 24 hours, and was really crazy. And then after that, then we started creating different designs, etc. And I wanted even more, not just because when we started, we did abstract art mostly. But I'm a huge fan of like Patek's enamel painted dials, and some of the things that JLC does, etc.
Beautiful stuff.
Really beautiful stuff.
Yeah,
but the problem is the price point to get into enamel painted Patek. It's not for everybody,
What is I don't even know what an enamel dial Patek starts at. 40, 50, higher?
I mean, if you're just getting the enamel painted dial, yeah, probably somewhere around there. But usually they put some diamonds on there, and it's in gold, etc. So it runs up to 100. Yeah, I mean, it's literally, it's for the fortunate few. And there's already a lot of things for the fortunate few. However, from my point of view, was like, there isn't really anybody doing this at even a small scale, where you can get a hand-painted dial on your Citizen or on your Oris or whatever the brand may be, where it's more accessible. It's $1,000, it's $2,000, around that price point, so to say. And that's where we found a lot of success, and we built out a team around that. We have our own in-house watchmakers. We have our own in-house artists.
Oh, so you have your own person that paints the dials?
I have 3 artists that work for me full time. We have 2 watchmakers. Yeah, we have a pretty strong team. And most recently as well, we started doing bespoke projects for other brands. We are in conversations with certain brands working on designs for them, where we will be dropping soon limited editions of 100 pieces, 200 pieces, so with the different concepts directly with the brands. And also a lot of companies, like like a golf course reaches out and says, hey, we'd like to have 25 pieces for our employees and our VIPs. Sure. Whatever the business they are in.
And that costs them a lot less than going to Patek.
Not only that, it's actually doable. We can have a turnaround around 4 to 8 weeks, depending on the project's scale and depending on the watch, etc. So somebody can reach out with just an idea and have a finalized product, 20, 50 watches in front of them within a month or two.
It's interesting because you bypassed making watches and you went straight to making wearable art. And I think that's really what I admire about how you've gone about it, is that you've sort of you found a shortcut to making the fun stuff without having to do the hard parts right now. So you don't close yourself off from doing more intensive projects in the future. But as someone that likes the idea of wearing art on your wrist, I think you did it in a very clever way.
Thank you. That's a very clever way to break it down as well. I did try doing what you just explained. I understood how long time and what the effort it takes to creating a watch from scratch. And I did that as a hobby project with a few friends many, many years ago. And it took us 2 years. We had a Kickstarter. It went pretty okay. But I understood that to be able to do that, it takes you 2 years to just have a final watch. Wow, that's a lot of work, a lot of time waiting, a lot of dead time, unfortunately, where you're just waiting for things, whereas this is it's more go, because we have a client that have a clear understanding of what type of watch they want, what style of design they want. And we get to the design phase, we show them the design phase, and as long as we get the thumbs up, and we're good to go, and we get cranking on it, and we can have a very good turnover.
Now, I think the interesting question for me is, how do you intersect your two primary business functions so that they work synergistically? And by that, I mean you have the content that you publish on social media and the products that you're trying to sell, because they're kind of different, right? Like you do a lot of celebrity stuff. You do a lot of look at how expensive this watch is. And that's exactly what the algorithm wants. You've correctly identified, what does well. But the products you're selling, you sell alongside that, but there's a missing element there. And if anything, I want to know how you're able to split yourself in half between these two functions. They're very different, So I guess I'm just wondering how you split those things, and then how you make sure they work together through some type of built-in synergy.
Yeah, I obviously have a very talented team that helps me with all the things that you just mentioned. I've been able to build a strong
separate
team.
Teams. The people that make and sell things are not people that do social media content.
Well, we sit under the same roof, so to say. But yeah, obviously, a hand painter doesn't post on social, and vice versa. So people have different functions at the company. But how we've been able to, some of the synergies that you just mentioned, like, okay, you're posting about celebrities, and then you're selling $1,000 watch. How does that make sense? To be quite frank with you, the synergies we've seen is that we get a lot of crazy names ordering our stuff. Like sometimes when I go through the orders and I see some of the names, I can't believe the name that I'm reading and who's ordering.
That's fun, right?
Us.
Yeah, it's fun.
That's so much fun.
Yeah.
Everything from like big mega star football players to big business names to it's very humbling, but it's really cool that people really like
you
that.
You make cool stuff. What do you expect? They like cool stuff. That's what you do when you get to that point. You have to walk around and show people your cool stuff.
Thank you. So we've been very lucky in those regards. We've had very good luck. Like we had a tennis star buy our watch and wear it during the Olympics, just organically. So those type of things have happened to us, and that helps also boost everything and get the knowledge out there. But but it's a balancing act, like every business when you run it. You have things to do in the bottom, in the top, the left side. So we're just trying to do my best and help where I can.
Would you rather do one or the other? Like, are you making the products to support your ability to post, or is now posting the way that you get people to buy the products?
No, my main page has a very small function in our overall media spend and media reach. I would say it has maybe 5%.
So you're spending a lot on advertising?
Oh, yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see. And that's obviously on the same platforms that you're posting on.
We most recently, we've also invested more on YouTube. So we do a lot of stuff with the YouTube influencers. We do a lot of stuff with the Instagram influencers. We work with a couple dozen Instagram influencers that talk and post about our stuff. YouTube, same thing. So yeah, I mean, you can't build out what we've been building out with just one Instagram page and that. So it's a marketing machine. I love marketing, so that's my passion. I haven't studied it at like school. I've just studied it myself.
You spent in the hours. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You put your time in, sir. No worries.
So that is my passion as well, like marketing, understanding it, making a good marketing campaign. So for us, it's not just making a cool design. It's also how do we present this in the best manner, and how do we make a cool marketing campaign? How do we reach the most amount of people in a cost-effective way? So all of those things is my job, basically.
What's your role in the actual design of the products, creative direction, whatever you want to call it? I don't know what your specific level of involvement is.
I'm extremely involved. I'm very involved. I steer the direction in terms of what type of designs, themes. I would say I have a pretty good understanding of balancing a dial, making sure the dial looks cool. When I design a watch, I like the watch to be cool from afar and also be detailed when you get up close and you see the details. So those two factors play a big role in how we approach the design aspect of things. I'm a colorful guy, so I like color. I like to try different things. I love the design aspect. I love working with the design team. I spend a lot of time with the design team and exploring different things and major bespoke projects. I'm the lead on them, so I'm the contact person. I run it with. I pick one of my artists to work with me, and we make sure that comes out great. Very involved in that.
How important is it for your business model to leverage some of the trusted names of the base watches, the Casios and the Citizens and stuff like that, and apply your art on top of it? The reason I ask is because the natural progression of things is to go more high volume, and you'll run into supply issues and stuff like that if you continue to, try to buy products from other companies that could stop making things that you use. Yes. So I wonder if you start to go into your own production with your own watches and things like that, if you would have the same type of success, or there's something special. It's sort of just a guess, just talking about it. Something special about being this sort of aftermarket outfit that takes these otherwise respectable but sometimes boring watches and sexing them up, to, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely. So we are. When we started out with the G-Shock, right? I think obviously it's a G-Shock, so the G-Shock is on its own pretty respectable.
Desirable.
So people understand it. But then if you look at the price point, I think the price point is going to answer your question pretty fairly, because you can get a G-Shock for $100, but our G-Shocks cost $400 or $500 depending on the design, etc. So that kind of answers your question to a point, whereas, okay, what is the person buying? When he's spending $500, he understands that this is a base model that he can get for $100 that we have customized.
Yeah.
So they're willing to spend 4x for a customization, a design that we do, than the base model, so to say. And you might think as well, like, okay, so if you touch a certain brand, do you see a peak going up? No, it's all about the design that we do. Whether we do it on a Seiko, whether we do it on a Tissot, whether we do it on an Oris, if the design is striking, if the storytelling is striking, if the marketing campaign is striking, if it speaks to people, then people are willing to spend the money and find a connection to the piece, to the art piece. And we do very limited quantities, so people understand that, okay, I'm buying something that isn't created in a workshop in thousands and 10,000s. So I understand that it's 100 pieces, 200 pieces, whatever the number may be on a specific piece. So people find that also very intriguing, that, okay, it's a special thing.
In terms of the art, you always want to push the boundaries in terms of the quality, in terms of sometimes materials or techniques and things like that. You always sort of see this. What are you hoping to be able to offer the customers next? And what do you need? Is it new people? Is it machines? Do you need things to be developed? Because you're obviously always looking ahead. You need to in this business. And I know that your imagination is obviously going to be more prolific than what you can actually get done. What would you like to continue offering on the art side?
We're working more and more towards being able to offer personalization, and because right now we don't really offer piece uniques unless it's a higher end piece, so to say.
Because it's a lot of time and effort. You got to make some money from it.
Yeah, exactly. So like somebody coming in with a Seiko and they want to make it a piece unique, it's going to cost way more than some people.
So like, wait, with their own watch, they're giving you their watch? Is that what you mean?
They can do that, sure. But when it comes to, as an example, a Seiko, it's much easier for us to just source one. We usually don't really make any margin on the watch.
Sure.
So we just tell them, like, this watch is going to cost me X amount of dollars. This is what you're going to pay for the watch. So we'll source it for them. We haven't really done a lot of like Rolexes or Tudors, etc. But we've seen that a lot of customers are reaching out to us. They want to customize their own Rolex watches, their own Tudors, etc. So we've been starting to do that. I'm pretty excited about doing more of those type of watches, because I think that's really, really cool. So that is something that we are looking forward to. We have experimented as well with doing more elaborate customizations, like worked with PVDing, worked with Cerakoting, etc. But when you work with smaller value watches, it doesn't make sense from a commercial point of view. So it needs to be a little bit more higher end to be able to do that. And I always like to test the market. I always like to do something that I like, a watch that I would wear, and then I put it up and see the reaction. And people are either going to love it or there's no reaction. And most of the time, people think it's pretty cool and insane, and people will like it.
We're just about out of time, so I think we're going to have to continue this another time with the second conversation, because there's so much more I want to talk about. But before we end, please tell everyone where they can learn more about you and the business on the internet.
Absolutely. So my business is available on IFLWatches.com, and my Instagram account is at iFuckingLoveWatches, where we post most of our watch findings around the world. So that's where you can follow us as well.
What a great chat. This has been the Superlative Podcast interview with Karar Amer. Karar, what a really interesting conversation. I can't wait to have the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ariel. My pleasure. Thank you.